Today, I'd like to focus on Genesis chapter 50, especially from verse 14 to 21, and see how Joseph offered forgiveness to his brothers. Here is how Joseph handled the plea for forgiveness from his brothers. You realize that Joseph recalled the evil that was done to him. As his brothers plead for forgiveness, he recalled the evil done to him. And I put it to us that forgiving does not mean condoning the behavior of the offender. Nor does it mean forgetting what happened. He did not deny the sinful nature of his brother's actions. He did not make any excuses for their behavior. And he did not deny the fact that their actions had hurt him. He looks them straight in the eyes in verse 20 and is gently honest with them as he says, verse 20, "You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives." It becomes easy for us to forgive others when we avoid living in denial, face up to the degree of our heartache, and trust God to let go. True forgiveness begins at the point when we recall, when we admit, when we acknowledge our pain and heartache. True forgiveness doesn't deny the offense or cover up as if it didn't hurt. Joseph never denied the fact that he was hurting. He never did it. Apart from recalling the evil done to him, Joseph relinquished his right to get even. He relinquished his right to get even. And friends, we live in a world which whispers in our ear, "Hey, don't get mad, just get even. Don't get angry, just retaliate." That's what the world whispers in our ear. Not so from the story of Joseph. After his ordeal in the pit, and later his incarceration in prison, Joseph could have chosen to be a bitter and resentful man towards his brothers. After all, they had made him go through unimaginable pain in the past. But he knew that bitterness would have made him a prisoner to his past. And so he decided to let go and let God. Joseph's brothers had acted out of hatred, and yet he refused to let, their actions turn him into a vengeful man. He responds to their hearts with forgiveness. He understood he wasn't the judge, that God is the ultimate avenger. Look at verse 15. When Joseph's brothers saw that their father was dead, they said, "What if Joseph holds a grudge against us and pays us back for all the wrongs we did to him?" They are fearful. What if? Verse 18 and 19, this is what it says. His brothers then came and threw themselves down before him. "We are your slaves," they said. But Joseph said to them, "Don't be afraid. Am I in the place of God? Am I the final judge? Am I the one who has the right to avenge? Am I the one who has the right to hit back?" Joseph never sought revenge on his brothers. Joseph's question, I believe, is a good one to ask ourselves when we are tempted to withhold forgiveness from somebody, and when we are tempted to hit back at somebody who has hurt us. I think that is a good question to ask ourselves. Am I in the place of God to hit back at X who has hurt me? Am I in the place of God to hit back at Y who has deeply wounded me and caused my heart to bleed? Am I in the place of God to avenge, to get even? I put it to us that Joseph relinquished his right to get even. Other than recalling the evil done to him and relinquishing his right to get even, Joseph also responded to evil with good. Isn't it so lovely to know that Joseph responded to the evil that was done to him by his brothers by doing good to them, by forgiving them? Wow! He provided for them. He provided for their children. And the Bible says he also spoke kindly to them. Verse 21 of Genesis chapter 50. So then, don't be afraid. I will provide for you and your children. And he reassured them and spoke kindly to them. Wow. Forgiveness doesn't seek to get even, but it responds to evil with good. In spite of the evil they had done to him, Joseph chose to forgive his brothers. He chose to provide for them and their children. He verbalizes the forgiveness, but he also puts the forgiveness in action by actually saying, hey, I'm going to provide. Yes, I forgive you. Fear not. I will provide. And I pray that we shall learn to forgive those who hurt us and look for opportunities to serve them and to do good. Yes, Joseph recalled the evil done to him. He relinquished his right to get even. He responded to evil with good. And lastly, he refocused on God's plan for his life. He refocused on God's plan for his life. He understood that God, can overrule our heartaches and turn our pain into good. He understood that pretty well. Verse 20. This is Joseph talking. You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good, to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives. He had this focus on God's plan for his life. He did not see these detractors who intended to harm him as being the people who are orchestrating and taking control of his life. He saw God as the one who was orchestrating his life and, who was in control of his life. He understood that God can overrule our heartaches and turn our pain into good. The actions of his brothers were not good. Of course, his time in the pit was not good. His time in prison was not good. But God's work in his life was good. You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good. Even in that negative situation, still offer forgiveness, knowing that God can still use this messy situation to bring something beautiful to the glory of his name. The fact that God means to do us good overrides any wicked intent of our enemies to harm us. Nothing, including the evil schemes of wicked men. can thwart God's plan. And how I pray that we shall come to a place where we can say, the person meant it for evil, but God meant it for good.